You know Jai Radha Madhava? Of course. How could I mistake? You're all devotees, right? I'm sorry? Sadhaka. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mishpat Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Mishpat Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Mukunda Prabhu, can you make sure that this light is on full for me? I think it may be. And we don't have the big fan up here going? No, if it's on, can you just check and make sure it's off? I guess the fans are blowing on the altar. Just double check. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, that's good. That's good, Mukunda. Okay. Forgive me, I'm a little bit slow because of fasting. So, if I quote a wrong verse, don't blame me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we are, okay, let's see. On this 9th day of July 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are on chapter 16, the Divine and Demoniac Natures, and we're still studying texts 1 to 3. It has a very long purport, so we're in the middle of that purport. But we'll chant the verses and then we'll go on. Most of your books, page 615. I can't ask you where we are, Marcy. All right. The second set. We started this chapter, but we didn't finish the purport. Yeah, so, but we're in the middle of the purport. And I think that this is, anyway, we'll begin the purport on the middle of 618 when we get there, but first we'll chant the verses. Okay, everyone ready to chant? Shri Bhagavana Vacha Abhayam Sattva Sangshuddhir Jnana Yoga Vavastitihi Dhanam Damascha Yagyascha Svadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Tyaga Shanti Dapaishunam Daya Bhuteshwalo Luptvam Madhavang Hrira Chapalam Tejakshamadruti Shaucham Adroho Natimanita Pavanti Sambadhang Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Do you want to chant? One verse? Do one of the three. Just the first one. Shri Bhagavan, go ahead. Shri Bhagavana Vacha Abhayam Sattva Sangshuddhir Jnanam Yoga Vavastitihi Dhanam Damascha Yagyascha Svadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Tyagakshanti Dapaishunam Dayabhute Shaloluptvam Mardhavam Rira Chapalam. Damodar, you next. Tejakshamadruti Shaucham Adroho Natimanita Pavanti Sampadham Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Mukunda. Shri Bhagavana Vacha Abhayam Sattva Sangshuddhir Jnana Yoga Bhavastitihi Dhanam Damascha Yagyascha Mahajyasya Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Vaishunam Dayabhuteshwalo Luptvam Madhavam Rira Chapalam. Ed, you want to try? Third verse. Druti. Tejakshamadruti Shaucham Adroho Natimanita Pavanti Sampadham Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Maraji, start again. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Abhayam Sattva Sangshuddhi Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi Dhanam Damascha Yagyascha Svadhyayastapa. Marcy. Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Tyagakshanti Dapaishunam Dayabhuteshwalo Luptvam Madhava Rira Chapalam. Okay, there's two left. You can do it? Go ahead. Number 3. Tejakshamadruti Shaucham Adroho Natimanita Pavanti Sampadham Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. you get a free pass. You're okay. Okay, I'll read through the synonyms myself. You can read along. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Abhayam, fearlessness, sattva sangshuddhi, purification of one's existence, jnana, in knowledge, yoga, of linking up, vivastitihi, the situation, dhanam, charity, dhammaha, controlling the mind, cha, and yajna, performance of sacrifice, cha, and svadhyayaha, study of Vedic literature, tapaha, austerity, arjavam, simplicity, ahimsa, non-violence, satyam, truthfulness, akrodha, freedom from anger, tyagha, renunciation, shantihi, tranquility, apaishanam, aversion to fault-finding, daya, mercy, bhuteshu, towards all living entities, aloruptvam, freedom from greed, mardavam, gentleness, modesty, achapalam, determination, tejaha, vigor, shama, forgiveness, dritihi, fortitude, shaucham, cleanliness, adroha, freedom from envy, not, ati manita, expectation of honor, bhavanti are sampadam, the qualities, daivim, the transcendental nature, abhijatasya, of one who is born of Bharata, O son of Bharata. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. Okay, so we won't read those synonyms again since practically the translation is equivalent. This will take us 1 or 2 more days to get through. So we have been reading the first couple of pages about the sannyasi. The first qualities are for the sannyasi: fearlessness, purification of existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge. And I think we're in the middle of 618. We'll begin there. This is also describing the sannyasi. The next item is jnana yoga vivastiti, being engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. Sannyasi life is meant for distributing knowledge to the householders and others who have forgotten their real life of spiritual advancement. A sannyasi is supposed to beg from door to door for his livelihood, but this does not mean that he is a beggar. Humility is also one of the qualifications of a transcendentally situated person, and out of sheer humility, the sannyasi goes from door to door, not exactly for the purpose of begging, but to see the householders and awaken them to Krishna consciousness. This is the duty of a sannyasi. If he is actually advanced and so ordered by his spiritual master, he should preach Krishna consciousness with logic and understanding. And if one is not so advanced, he should not accept the renounced order of life. But even if one has accepted the renounced order of life without sufficient knowledge, he should engage himself fully in hearing from a bona fide spiritual master to cultivate knowledge. A sannyasi, or one in the renounced order of life, must be situated in fearlessness, sattva sangshuddhi, purity, and jnana yoga, knowledge. So just a few words on this paragraph. Om jnana timarandasya jnananjana shalakaya chukshu unmuditam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, Srila Prabhupada, in writing this, I couldn't help think about his own life. That Prabhupada, as a sannyasi, he dedicated himself to spreading the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And fearlessness, I mean, he perfectly embodied that quality, just coming to America, as he did in later life with declining health, no followers, no money, and just on the strength of his order of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Lord Chaitanya's prediction, and the deep ocean of compassion that has impelled him to try to give the treasure of Krishna consciousness to those who needed it most. So he came to America. He wasn't a beggar. He often, when he went back to India, because I listened to those lectures again and again, and Srila Prabhupada went back to India first because of his health, and then later, after establishing Krishna consciousness firmly in the West and staying in New Dwarka in L.A. for months, he went to Japan and he went to India, and he had tremendous success. They had these huge pandals with thousands of people. He brought his dancing white elephants, you know, the Westerners to India, and they were simply amazed at it. Before your time, I know. But he would often make the point, I went to America not to beg anything, but rather to give. Even though he was penniless, he wasn't begging anything. He was giving the knowledge as much as possible. And that's the nature of the kind-hearted Vaishnav and the sannyasi, who is not concerned with material affairs. He can be very austere, whatever comes easily. But he's always fixed on giving the Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada perfectly embodied these qualities of the sannyasi. So we're going to go on now. Then the next qualities are for the grihastha. The next item is charity, dana. Charity is meant for the householders. The householders should earn a livelihood by an honorable means and spend 50% of their income to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. Thus, a householder should give in charity to institutional societies that are engaged in that way. Charity should be given to the right receiver. There are different kinds of charity, as will be explained later on. Charity in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. We're at the bottom of page 618. Charity in the mode of goodness is recommended by these scriptures, but charity in the modes of passion and ignorance is not recommended, because it is simply a waste of money. Charity should be given only to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. That is charity in the mode of goodness. Then as far as Dhamma, or self-control, is concerned, it is not only meant for other orders of religious society, but is especially meant for the householder. Although he has a wife, a householder should not use his senses for sex life unnecessarily. There are restrictions for the householders, even in sex life, which should only be engaged in for the propagation of children. If he does not require children, he should not enjoy sex life with his wife. Modern society enjoys sex life with contraceptive methods or more abominable methods to avoid the responsibility of children. This is not in the transcendental quality, but is demoniac. If anyone, even if he is a householder, wants to make progress in spiritual life, he must control his sex life and should not beget a child without the purpose of serving Krishna. If he is able to beget children who will be in Krishna consciousness, one can produce hundreds of children, but without this capacity one should not indulge only for sense pleasure. Sacrifice is another item to be performed by the householders, because sacrifices require a large amount of money. Those in other orders of life, namely brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyas, have no money. They live by begging. So performance of different types of sacrifice is meant for the householders. They should perform Agnihotra sacrifices as enjoined in the Vedic literature, but such sacrifices at the present moment are very expensive, and it is not possible for any householder to perform them. The best sacrifice recommended in this age is called Sankirtan Yajna. This Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best and most inexpensive sacrifice. Everyone can adopt it and derive benefit. So these three items, namely charity, sense control, and performance of sacrifice, are meant for the householder. So, but we can see that this Sankirtan Yajna, as Prabhupada says, is really meant for everybody, because the sacrifice is necessary in this human form of life. As Krishna says way back in chapter 3, Yagyartat kamano nyatir lokoyam karma bandhana. Our activities should be performed as sacrifices for Vishnu. Otherwise, they bind us to this world. We're bound to the fruits. If we're not performing our activities for sacrificing of the fruits, then we're trying to enjoy the fruits, and that enjoying propensity, it binds us to this material world. So, what is the best sacrifice in this age? The best sacrifice is Sankirtan Yajna. It's practically, it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to be a Brahmin to perform it. You don't have to make elaborate arrangements. Anyone can do it anytime, any place. And this is the proper means of worshiping the Yuga Avatar. Who is the Yuga Avatar? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes. What does it say? Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagyar Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hisumedasa. That in this age Krishna comes, but he doesn't come in his original form playing the flute. He comes with a golden complexion. Krishna is a Trisha Akrishnam, non-blackish, golden. And what is he doing? Krishna Varnam. He's describing Krishna, or he's vibrating those two syllables. Varna can mean syllables. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So in other words, he's performing Sankirtan. And doesn't come alone. He comes with his angas and his upa-angas and his parshadas. In other words, his associates, his weapons, astra. What is his weapon? He has two weapons. No. That's for Vishnu. Well, Lord Chaitanya, when you see him on the altar, he has his hands open. He's not carrying a chakra or a ball or the club. So that Zachary. Yes, there's two. The main weapons are the holy names. Now, here we're reading about the divine and demoniac nature. Now, there's a little preamble about the divine, but most of the chapter is about the demoniac. And Krishna, as he goes on in this chapter, he seems to be getting angrier. And at the end he says, I condemn them, and they go to the hellish, planet and everything. And we know from the Bhagavatam stories that Krishna kills thousands of demons. And so he does that, but not as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he was going to do that with Jagai Madai, who stopped him? Nityananda, right? Said, no, you can't do that, because in this age everybody's Jagai Madai. You have to deliver them, And then he argued for Jagai, who stopped Madai from throwing another pot, the whole thing. So Lord Chaitanya, he delivers not by killing the demons, but by killing the demonic nature in the heart of everyone through the chanting of the holy name. So that's the Jagya of the age, and that's universal, as Prabhupada says here. It's not just for the householders, this and that. So, and by that Jagya, really we transcend these distinctions of this caste consciousness, which is also something that happens in this age. I am a Brahmin. Oh, I am a sannyasi. I travel and worship me. That whole thing, which is antithetical to real bhakti. So in the kirtan, I don't know about you, but when there's kirtan, I don't worry about what station anyone is at. He's a kshatriya. A vaishya. It's not like that. Everybody's chatting together. And Prabhupada, he came to America. He was the most exalted soul, but he got down and he sat down on the ground in Washington Square Park, and he chanted Hare Krishna, because that's what people needed, and that's what that revolution, that egalitarianism, is really one of the most appealing parts of the process religion. It says nobody's excluded, and Prabhupada proved. He went to Africa. He went to he didn't go to China, but he would have if he could. And he went to Russia and every place. And he went to the most degraded place, New York City. I lived there. I lived there 2 blocks, not when Prabhupada was there, a couple of years later, in the Lower East Side. And although there's all this money, all of this built-up opulence, it really is very degraded. And it's no better now, all these years later, except for where devotees are chanting, So this Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhupada gives the whole thing here. This is the Sankirtan Jagi, the Yuga Dharma. Any questions, comments on these points? Svadhyaya. Vedic study is meant for brahmacharya, or student life. Brahmacharis should have no connection with women. They should live a life of celibacy and engage the mind in the study of Vedic literature for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. This is called svadhyaya. So this is the great advantage of living, a simple brahmacharya. You have more time. And you have peace of mind, where you can actually apply yourself to understanding these exalted literatures, which is, after all, the basis of human life, according to Vedanta Sutra. Atata Brahma Jigyasa, that one should inquire into Brahman in this as a human being. And we hear echoes of that in the Bhagavatam itself, which is the natural commentary on the Bhagavatam, on the Vedanta Sutra, where it says, Kamasin Indriya Pritir, Labo jiveta yavata. Jivasa tattva jigyasa narto yashya karmabhi. This is like an expansion of that first sutra. It says life's desire should not be engaged in sense gratification. Kamasya na indriya priti. Indriya priti is exactly sense gratification. Labho jiveta yavata means one should live a simple life, just keeping body and soul together. This is brahmacharya life. It's simple. Jiveta yavata. Whatever you need to live, yes, you can have. That's your quota, Then what do I do with all that extra energy? Jivasya tattva jigyasa. One should live in order to inquire and understand these higher subject matters, because the clock is ticking on all of us. One may be 7, one may be 12. Am I guessing 13? 10? Oh, big advanced for 10. One may be, dare I say it, 70? Am I the oldest? No, I won't. You don't have to say it. Anyway, the point is, or anywhere in between. Oh, I'm sorry, Ed Kane, you're a senior. 70 man. He's a senior man. So we have the full spectrum here. Children, and we have the changing bodies exhibit is fully represented in this room. But it doesn't matter. Whatever time we have, we should use it for chanting the holy name, inquiring, hearing the Shastra, and preparing ourselves to go back to Godhead. We should, hope to do that. So, as I was hearing Prabhupada, he gave so much literature just so that we'd have something to study and read and fill our minds with these exalted thoughts and understanding and Krishna's pastimes and everything which we're going to read. Are we on Krishna book or Nectar of Devotion? I always forget. Huh? Krishna book this week. Okay. So the Svadhyaya is really for everybody also, Vedic study. And Prabhupada has given us such a facility. Tapas, or austerity, is especially meant for the retired life. One should not remain a householder throughout the whole life. He must always remember that there are 4 divisions of life: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanapasta, and sannyas. So after grahastha, householder life, one should retire. If one lives for 100 years, he should spend 25 years in student life, 25 in householder life, 25 in retired life, and 25 in renounced order of life. These are the regulations of the Vedic religious discipline. A man retired from household life must practice austerities of the body, the mind, and the tongue. That is tapasya. The entire varnashram dharma society is meant for tapasya. Without tapasya or austerity, no human being can get liberation. The theory that there is no need of austerity in life, that one can go on speculating and everything will be nice, is recommended neither in the Vedic literature nor in the Bhagavad Gita. Such theories are manufactured by show bottle spiritualists who are trying to gather more followers. If there are restrictions, rules, and regulations, people will not become attracted. Therefore, those who want followers in the name of religion, just to have a show only, don't restrict the lives of their students, nor their own lives, but that method is not approved by the Vedas, nor does that method help you become any closer to breaking out of birth and death and going back to Godhead. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's part of the organization. I mean, the thing is that, I mean, someone born in a Brahmin family and who's actually trained as a Brahmin clearly is closer to the position of sannyas than someone who's spent his whole life, making money and working hard, and we have to always remember. I mean, I worked as a Shudra when I first left college, and I remember distinctly. I was physically a lot stronger. I was younger, maybe 19 years old or something, like you are. And now you're 20. He's getting up there. And I remember this electrical supply house, and I was lifting these big cables, 50-pound things of cable on this, And I was a young man, I can do this, But it was like contradictory to my nature, because I had dropped out of school, and then after like maybe a year of this kind of work, I said, this is crazy. I should go back to school. I'm wasting my, just to do that. And I wanted to study philosophy. So ironically, I went to NYU in New York City, and I took Philosophy 101, and the gentleman who taught it was Indian born. He had completely left that field and studied Western philosophy. I was reading about Heidegger and Nietzsche and all these guys, I didn't find out what I was looking for. So the point is that they're more suited, obviously, because of Brahminical qualities and some of these sannyas qualities. You can easily see how you can develop them. Less so for the Kshatriya, But even the Kshatriyas, when they don't take sannyas so much as just heavy-duty renunciation. They always go into the forest to renounce the kingdom. I remember when I read about King Prithu. Prithu, who was this you know, the ideal king. He was like, you know, he punished the earth for not giving enough grain and all these things. And then when he left, he went into the forest, and first thing he was eating fruits, and then the fruits that fell to the ground, and the leaves. Then he was just breathing and doing severe austerities, way beyond what is described for a sannyasi, especially a modern sannyasi. And why is that? You know, why is that recommended? Because you spend so much life involved with, you know, money and fighting, and generally you have all facility for sense gratification, you know. Now he was of course special, but he showed by example. So in order to burn that out, there has to be it's recommended in that age for extreme austerities like that. So, and the Vaishyas, they won't be able to do it, you know, because they're too much entangled in the mentality. So yes, there's definitely a relationship between the what varna you're in and what ashram you can embrace. There's no question about it. So, but you know, in the modern age, janmana jayate shudra. Everyone's born a shudra, you know, and you're meant to go through some scars to become twice born. Meant to study the Vedas to become Vipra. But if one wants to be a real Brahmin, one has to understand Brahman. Brahmajana titi Brahmana. So all of that is kind of subsumed and taken care of by the process of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada talks about the elevator, going to the top floor rather than traipsing up the stairs. I remember, I don't know if you've ever been to New York, but of course if you go to New York as a tourist, you want to go to the Empire State Building, right? So I remember as a tourist, even though I lived on the line, I went there and you got in this elevator. And it was a long ride up there. What was it, 90 floors, 86? It was huge. And I couldn't imagine walking up the stairs. You know, probably the other way is walking up the stairs. So Krishna consciousness is like the elevator. And it doesn't matter. And this is really important because, especially in the modern age, you find people are so in anxiety, even though they work very hard, they can't make enough money. Or even if they work very hard, they're insecure because they may lose their job. There's, you know, everything is in flux in the modern, you know, much more than it used to be just 30, 40 years ago in America. So how can one be satisfied in a varnashram situation, living as just as a manual labor, very simply, you know, without becoming envious of those in the higher classes? The only way is by being Krishna conscious. Just like, you know, a simple brahmachari, if he's really Krishna conscious, he can be satisfied with hardly anything. Because you got the richness, so you got the holy name, and you got all of these wonderful literature descriptions of Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, which is completely fulfilling. You feel like you're the luckiest person on the earth if you're really relishing it and you're tasting it and you feel yourself becoming purified. And that's a fact. All the accumulated wealth you may be able to earn is just really a big impediment, you know, if it to advancement, because renunciation has to be there. You can be wealthy and be renounced if you're using it all for Krishna, but it's not so easy. It's very tempting to enjoy it too much, you know. So we have to go through. That's why the training is so important, and you know, the Gurukul and so forth. You know, for the king's son would also go out and do menial service. Famously, even Krishna went out in the forest to gather the wood with Sudama, and Krishna arranged for the storm to come, right, so that they would be out there all night, you know. So that's how it works. Okay, I think let's shoot at finishing this purport, and we can. I think tomorrow I can give one more class. I'm leaving on Wednesday for 10 days. As far as the Brahminical quality of simplicity is concerned, not only should a particular order of life follow this principle, but every member, be he in the brahmachari ashram, grahastha ashram, vanaprastha ashram, or sannyasa ashram, one should be very simple and straightforward. Prabhupada is going through all of these qualities. He's not mentioning the Sanskrit. Now, ahimsa. Ahimsa means, this is a famous quality, it's an English word. Mahatma Gandhi made it famous. Ahimsa means not arresting the progressive life of any living entity. You don't hear that often. One should not think that since the spirit spark is never killed, even after the killing of the body, there is no harm in killing animals for sense gratification. People are now addicted to eating animals, in spite of having an ample supply of grains, fruits, and milk. There is no necessity for animal killing. This injunction is for everyone. When there is no alternative, one may kill an animal, but it should be offered in sacrifice. At any rate, when there is an ample food supply for humanity, persons who are desiring to make advancement in spiritual realization should not commit violence to animals. Real ahimsa means not checking anyone's progressive life. The animals are also making progress in their evolutionary life by transmigrating from one category of animal life to another. If a particular animal is killed, then his progress is checked. If an animal is staying in a particular body for so many days or so many years and is untimely killed, then he has to come back again in that form of life to complete the remaining days in order to be promoted to another species of life. So their progress should not be checked simply to satisfy one's palate. This is called ahimsa. There's even an awareness of that now more in this vegan movement. A lot of it is also animal rights and trying to stop animal cruelty. And the big what do you call it, agribusiness, multi-billionaires, they get the politicians to pass a law called the ag-gag laws. Does that, you know what that is? It means that you can't go to a slaughterhouse area, take pictures, and then make big propaganda against that. That's against the law. And if you start, criticizing this food, that food, because then they'll say, well, this is libel, or something. They've got some law against that, isn't it? Because they know that it's horrible, that people would reject it out of hand if they actually saw how this food is made. Yeah. Then they would stop. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada, very boldly came to America, and he didn't start the vegetarian movement, but it got a big impetus from the Hare Krishnas. Yeah. Well, Prabhupada is speaking about the animals who really are not they're not involved with karma. They're working off their karma, and they evolve. The bodies don't evolve, but the consciousness of the living entity evolves as he passes from one animal to another, or one species to another. So, there's two things that happen. One is you're causing terror and pain, unnecessary suffering to the animal. That's one part of your karma. But another is you're disrupting the natural flow of the living entity developing and working off his karma in each species. So he has to come back and grow up again in the animal. So it's a delay. It's a delay like that, And that's just part of the unseen law of karma that's ruling now. And it's just inconceivable, the amount of suffering that's being instilled. And it comes back. It comes, as Prabhupada explained. The wars come because you can see just the effect, the hard-heartedness that develops. And like the capitalist system, as I've pointed out, means just exploiting as much as possible the animals and other human beings. We become just consumer units, not even people, But when you're thinking in terms of billions and moving all this stuff around, So the same mentality of cruelty, of lack of empathy, is also applied to your fellow man, and you can see how that will develop into wars and utter disaster. So the Krishna consciousness is diametrically opposed to that. We're meant to understand ourselves as spirit souls, and we're meant to be empathetic to everyone else and try to do as much good as possible for others by giving them knowledge and giving them Krishna consciousness, prasadam, and like that. That is the heart of a Vaishnava. It's revolutionary, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems a little unjust then that the animals, he's just on his natural evolutionary progression. Untimely kill, we got to go back to square one.
Well, it's not square one. I mean, he comes back to, the same species. Well, this comes up again and then. The intricacies of karma, the web of karma, Because in one sense, it's unjust that you're doing this to the animal. But what is the background of that living entity? What did he do? That's part of his karma ultimately, And just like, Prabhupada would say, well, the abortion thing. If you any involved in the abortion, then you have to come back and be aborted yourself, Well, isn't that justice then? When you see some the abortions going on, well, that person's getting his just desserts. But this comes up in the 18th chapter. Is the 18th chapter? Yeah, I think it's the 18th. Where Krishna says, if someone kills someone, if you kill someone, but there's no ego involved, there's no result. In other words, Arjuna is going to slaughter, so many, soldiers on the other side, and even the revered Bhishma Dev, and Drona was going to get killed. He didn't want to kill them. So, but the right thing to do ultimately was do that because Krishna wanted it. He did it without ego. He did it without any kind of selfish desire, just out of a sense of duty and a sense of service to Krishna. So the idea is that when you're involved on both sides of the karmic scale, one is imposing suffering and on others, and that's incurring new karma for you in the future. And meanwhile, you're fulfilling someone else's karma. It's an extremely complicated web. So the living entity who is in an animal's body should be allowed to go through that body. He's already suffering the karma. When you get involved on an egoistic way, you're not doing any favor for the animal. Like if you were doing a sacrifice, that's another thing with all the Vedic mantras. You progress quickly to the next body. But then you're involved. You're getting bad karma, and you're prolonging the agony for that animal. On one side. So there's two things going on. You're getting your just desserts in every case. There's precision, but on the other side, if you're doing it egotistically, you're now incurring new karma by doing it. So it's a huge entanglement, and we have to break. You have to break it, as we read from the previous chapter, by the weapon of detachment, which can only really be sharpened as possible by Krishna consciousness. Because unless you get attached to Krishna, you can't really be detached from this world. All right, so we're going to have to stop. We'll finish that purport probably tomorrow. And now we can read Krishna book. Long awaited. Okay. We're going to have a little bit of a throwback chapter if we have special guests. And we're going to read from my favorite chapter, Krishna, the gopis sing of Krishna's flute. Chapter 21 is called the Venu Gita. This is a famous chapter. It's a short chapter. But Krishna is entering the forest of Vrindavan. Okay. With the now, first you had the autumn season came, or the rainy season came, and now it's the autumn, when and everything is purified by all of that rain. With the arrival of the beautiful autumn season, the waters in the lakes and rivers became as clear as crystal, and filled with fragrant lotus flowers, and breezes blew very pleasantly. At that time, Krishna entered the forest of Vrindavan with the cows and cowherd boys. Krishna was very much pleased with the atmosphere of the forest, where flowers bloomed and bees and drones hummed very jubilantly. While the birds, trees, and plants were all looking very happy, Krishna, tending the cows and accompanied by Sri Balaram and the cowherd boys, began to vibrate his transcendental flute. After hearing the vibration of the flute of Krishna, the gopis in Vrindavan remembered him and began to talk among themselves about how nicely Krishna was playing his flute. When the gopis were describing the sweet vibration of Krishna's flute, they also remembered their pastimes with him. Thus their minds became disturbed, and they were unable to describe completely the beautiful vibrations. While discussing the transcendental vibration, they remembered also how Krishna dressed, decorated with a peacock feather on his head, just like a dancing actor, and with blue flowers pushed over his ear. His garment glowed yellow gold, and he was garlanded with a Vaijayanti necklace. Dressed in such an attractive way, Krishna filled up the holes of his flute with the nectar emanating from his lips. So they remembered him, entering the forest of Vrindavan, which is always glorified by the footprints of Krishna and his companions. Krishna was very expert in playing the flute, and the gopis were captivated by the sound vibration, which was attractive not only to them but to all living creatures who heard it. And one of the gopis told her friends, the highest perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest and playing their flutes and tending the cows with their friends. And Prabhupada says, persons who are constantly engaged in the transcendental meditation of seeing Krishna internally and externally by thinking of him playing the flute, entering the Vrindavan forest, and tending the cows with the cowherd boys, have really attained the perfection of samadhi. Samadhi or trance means absorption of all the activities of the senses in a particular object. And the gopis indicate that the pastimes of Krishna are the perfection of all meditation and samadhi. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone who is always absorbed in the thought of Krishna is the topmost of all yogis. Okay, now we're going to have a poem. I wrote a poem about everything that we just read. Just condensed it. So now pay attention, okay? See if you can visualize. Vrindavans, rivers, lakes and hills rang out with charming hums and trills as flocks of birds and maddened bees rejoiced among the flowering trees. To those idyllic woods and glens repaired Govinda with his friends, Sri Rama and the cowherd boys, to taste the most exquisite joys. And as they walked along the way, absorbed in herding and in play, Sri Krishna, beauty absolute, began to blow his mystic flute. With peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower on each ear, he entered Braj's woods with tread sublime, a dancer without peer. His golden yellow raiment glowed, his garland reaches to his knees, and from his lips the nectar flowed, and filled his flutes with melodies. As Krishna thus begins his day, with friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies the forest way with fine impressions of his feet. Samadhi culminates in this, to always see this scene of bliss within oneself and outside too. May Krishna give this boon to you. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Gaur. Now I realize I wrote some other poems, and there's a progression of these three poems. Now you are all familiar with the paintings and the books and all these things. So there's a painting. First of all, there's a painting of Krishna entering the forest. I was there when they painted this painting back in 1973 in Brooklyn. There was a devotee named Muralidhar. He's done some of the most famous paintings. No, it's not there. That's coming back. That's coming back. That's another famous painting by Muralidhar. Right here. But this one, he's entering it exactly like. So there was another painter, I think Dhriti or Durga. She painted Krishna running into the forest with Balaram. Have you ever seen that? The boys and cows are behind them. They're all running. You know, they've broken free from the constraints of their parents and everything, and so now they're running in. You know, Krishna and Balaram are in front. So there's a painting, and I wrote a caption for that one year for the calendar, BBD calendar. Let's go, said Krishna, don't delay at all. And he and Balaram began to run ahead of all their coward friends who called, Oh Krishna, Rama, let us join the fun. And off now, time out. There's some words I have to use that you may not know. One is a haunt. Everyone knows what a ghost does. It haunts you, right? But a haunt is also a secret place where you go to play. So he has forest haunts, little secret corners and caves and things, you know. So that's also in here. And there's something called a sword. It's not what you fight with. That's a sword. But a sword is a meadow, believe it or not. S-W-A-R-D. You may not know that word. But I needed that to rhyme with Lord. So let's start again. Let's go, said Krishna, don't delay at all. And he and Balaram began to run ahead of all their coward friends who called, Oh Krishna, Rama, let us join the fun. And off they ran to Braj's forest haunts to play in every bower, grove, and sward. The boys would tease their friend with playful taunts, forgetting his position as the Lord. Shri Krishna is inviting us as well to join him in his pastimes, which enthrall. The wise heed Krishna when they hear him tell, let's go, my friends, do not delay at all. This is the whole problem. We know Krishna, we know Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're his eternal servants, and that we have unbounded loving devotion for him deep in our hearts. And yet we delay, we kind of procrastinate. Oh, I got time. Well, before you know it, 45 years has passed, which is how long I've been doing this, and you don't have so much time. It's very urgent, we practice. So now they're in the forest, and now, you know this painting where Krishna's swinging? Have you ever seen him swinging? Okay, so that's the caption for this painting. For Krishna and his multitude of friends, a festival of joy each day would bring. A special thrill in Braja's forest glens was riding with him high upon a swing. O Ujjvala, Sridama, Bhadrasane, just see Vrindavan's bountiful delights. The peacock's dance, the songbird's sweet refrain, the lakes and hills and other scenic sights. All these make this the best place on the earth for us to play all day and herd the cows. Thus Krishna, in a mood of sportive mirth, enthused his friends while swinging from the boughs. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. I can't compete with the electronics. You know, you have to get to the point where you can visualize these things, and it works. This is the problem today. You know, we're burned out by all of this electronics. So everything else is just a really dull medium. You know, once you hear this poetry, you know, but that's what we got. So now you know the pastime where Mother Yashoda binds Krishna. Okay, so here's, you know, she's just binding him and he's crying, he's rubbing the eyes. You see. So there's a word that's perfect for Krishna in Vrindavan as a child. There's an English word. You may not know this word. Imp. Now imp, it also means a little forest creature from Ireland or something. You know, let's look at the Shastra, in other words the dictionary, and see what it says for imp. You tell me if this is perfect for Krishna when he's being most impish. So the first definition is not Krishna. A little devil or demon, an evil spirit. Number 2, a mischievous child. So this is not so good. But that's what Krishna did. He was mischievous child. So this is Mother Yashoda in Vrindavan. At last Yashoda caught her naughty child, who had smashed a pot of yogurt in a peak. Now a peak means in a little anger. That's in, you know. At last Yashoda caught her naughty child, who smashed a pot of yogurt in a peak. Though seemingly annoyed, she felt beguiled by little Krishna's loving charm, unique. O imp, I've caught you now, but do not fear. You see, I've thrown the stick upon the floor. But I must bind you with these ropes, my dear, lest you increase your mischief more and more. And so Yashoda bound the little son, who hid his glory to evoke her love. The blessings she enjoyed are never won by gods and goddesses who dwell above. Hare Krishna. That's all we have time for. We're going to have a nice arati. You can see Radha Gita Hari and Lord Chaitanya and Jagannath. And then some prasadam. Hare Krishna. Ramapati's thing is ready. I haven't seen him.
Yeah, and I just see
We'll get you big. We'll see. Big chin. Mommy. If you're going to die, you
Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Bhagavad-gita, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Prabhupada Paramahamsa, Dravida Prabhu, Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Thank you to all the Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavan-Nityananda, Sri Radha, Sri Krasa, Lord, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopalina, Shyam Bhagavan Gita Govinda, Vrindavan Dhan Ki Jai, Navadip Mayapur Dhan Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dhan Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Ram Rami Ki Jai, Murani Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Jayanam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, SanDiego Ki Jai, all glory to the SanDiego, all glory to the SanDiego, all glory to the SanDiego, all glory to the Guru and Namaste,
we should have a delay like that, just like say it in town hall, say it every day, chances round. But yeah, it's good. They just take for stock, cancel the rest, and just sit there all day. That's a lot of gas. Nice. Maybe I should sit here about it, around. Basically, it's very sharp. So the names came up. What we're going to do it. He's going to find these things. So I never anyone asked about it. I have more love. I already took something. What's your name again? Anish. And your name? What is it? Jonathan. So, you chant Hare Krishna? You like Krishna? Now where you are, you're not there. See, we have this game. So you attend Bhagavad you attend Bhagavad in Vrindavan every morning?
Every life we take aarti, parents are the Mangala aarti.
Oh, you have your own? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
It's 4:30, 7:30. So it's perfect for us.
But you're initiated or you're aspiring?